Welcome back. Yes, I got one in there.
Sean gets one in. Fantastic.
I was going to do it again, but never mind.
I was about to.
Now, go right. Pete, explain this quickly.
Okay, this is a sequence which is a flashback to a sequence from the very first series of the Ninja, episode 10, during which Princess Hime encounters Dusk for a short fight scene, and he is, rather surprisingly, given how the fight has been set up, defeated. He then, in a dream sequence, an imagined alternate after event, flees that fight into a separate part of the Ninja Nation, and is cornered by Gun, who, in this alternate version of events, has not been defeated, but rather has defeated Dine and
Leon and Dine in the final battle, and has gone out. And for some reason, his first order of business is to take care of his henchman.
Yes,
who is fleeing.
Henchman who betrayed him. And may I say, just how well Andrew Suter transforms from his 3-4 year younger self to present day, which is the current sequence.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we had to lose the flappy headband that he was wearing because he couldn't find it, but we did at least manage to very closely match his costume.
Oh yes.
We can assume that he lost it while he was running at some point.
Yeah, a very good scene with the editing and the mechanics behind some of the strategy in it. Well, I think, Peter, you should tell us what this was originally meant to be, because it is a bit disjointed.
It's a bit disjointed and doesn't in itself appear to have any relevance. This was supposed to be Dusk's final fight scene for episode 5, because for those who've seen it, Dusk does appear in episode 5, but disappears again rather abruptly. That was due to Andrew Suter's availability, and it was just unavoidable. Unfortunately, by that point, we'd already filmed this fight scene, and now had none of the adjoining scenes required to contextualize it within the episode. So, I decided to put it together for the start of episode 4 instead, to use it to illustrate basically that Gun is the thing that in his dreams Dusk dreads the most.
Yes, and I think for that sense, it kind of works in that way, and it would have been such a shame to not use this fight scene, because it is really good.
I was very happy with how it ended up. It's probably one of our best in terms of action to exposition ratio. Very little is explained. It's just you're just shown what's going on, and just cope with it.
I'm gonna admit, it's certainly one of my favourites as well. I did call in episode 2. That one's still definitely my favourite. This one's really high up there, though.
I'm behind you.
Yeah.
And it really just shows as well, because obviously Einstein's jutsu is fairly important towards Elzek as well. As a technique.
Yeah.
It proves it's not just this completely indestructible thing.
Yes. That it has its limitations. And I like the idea that Dusk's fight scene, even though it didn't end up becoming a major part of the story, shows him as a little more ruthless.
Even though it was technically a dream.
Yes, technically, it was a dream.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Into the bulk of the episode.
Yes, now...
It's a good thing Seal is on watch in this scene.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise some enemy ninjas could attack them.
Fantastic, yes. We were all safe thanks to him. Yes, I was overjoyed to be able to do this scene.
This is one you talked to me a lot about, really want to do.
Oh, yeah.
You described it as a campfire scene.
Yes, and your chief response was, how the hell do we do that?
Pretty much.
Like this.
Yes.
And it's worked fairly well.
And like this turned out to mean we get by several portable barbecues, disposable portable barbecues, set them up in the middle of us, light them up, and then during the time that they were burning, we did a trick which we sort of improvised on the day, which was by feeding occasional bits of paper and kindling into it. We got it to flare up bright enough to see the characters' faces as they did their lines.
And I think it actually worked really well. As far as scenes go, it's probably one of the ones I was most worried about not turning out well, because we put a lot of effort into it. We got these guys here at night time.
Yes.
Set ourselves on fire at one point, accident, or very close to doing so.
Very close. Yeah, I got a bit of flaming paper stuck to my foot.
nothing as impressive as I make it sound. But I was really looking forward, to seeing how this footage turned out, seeing what it was like, and was not disappointed.
Absolutely, I was. Yeah.
Especially given how annoying the camera was being on the day with refusing to cooperate with us.
Yeah. Plus, anything else could have been an uncooperative factor. It could have been raining, it could have been windy, anything like that. As it is, the audio is just solidly dialogue and that nice atmospheric crackle of the fire.
Yes, very good, very well done. Now, since this is the episode where it happens, tell us why Seal isn't at the campfire, because I've already said he's on watch. Tell us the truth.
Yes, tell us the truth. The truth is that the reason why the last episode, the special episode, was Seal's final appearance on screen with the other three cast members, and why he is not here for a significant part of this episode, is because Patrick was leaving. He was leaving Scotland and going back to live and work in Hong Kong. I learned this about a week before I was due to film his first scene for episode 4, and I panicked. And once I'd finished panicking, I thought through the way the episode works out in my head, thought about the scenes where he could appear to be absent from without too much, without causing too much of a fuss, and more importantly, how best to write him out. I will talk more about that when that becomes the main point of the episode. For now, suffice to say, by the time of the filming of this scene, Patrick had already departed for Hong Kong, and we only had the three of us, me, Steve, and Alex, to film this scene.
It was your infamous first aid work on the script and the continuity to
yes.
allow things to remain believable, up until this point at least.
First aid damn near mouth to mouth on the script.
Yes, he's truly my pupil when it comes to doctoring scripts to fit appearances of cast members. Now,
I was going to have Sean sit at the fireplace, but have him wear a lampshade over his head and wear Seal's costume.
Yeah, that would have been great. Why didn't you do that?
Well, it may shock you to hear, but I think it's been done.
I didn't know Sean made movies.
What am I doing now? What's this then?
Oh, I'm just kidding, Sean. Whoa, a bit of a revamp in the opening here.
Yes, same theme tune once again for episode 4 as the two major episodes before it, but some new footage added in there. Chiefly because I wanted the opening appearance of the characters' faces to include Dusk, played by Andrew Suter, whose name is appearing now, and whose part in this episode, while he was always going to be here for the full run of this episode, was significantly expanded with the departure of Patrick. We needed a fourth cast member to go into episode 5 with, and Andrew had the time, at the time he did anyway, and the will to do it. We've had some spectacular bad luck in the availability of the cast we've chosen. But,
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you some. I could tell you some horror stories about series 2, but I won't. So, granted, though, I can very much relate to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what. I will make it my personal duty in this episode to attempt to point out all of the moments where Patrick is there, but not really there.
Go right ahead. And here we have the now five major characters of the episode appearing on a screen together.
This was a rather strange scene just here, going straight to it.
Yeah.
You might be able to tell from any sort of distinction in the quality compared to other.
Yes.
Other scenes.
Yeah. Now this comes into it. See, our troubles weren't just cast related, were they?
They were technical as well.
Yeah. In between. Okay, how to best to put this? This filming day was filmed on our original camera. Subsequent to the filming day, I was out with Graham doing some filming for footage that we could both use for something. Actually, in the process of the filming, the tripod toppled over and the camera got quite badly damaged, worse than it seemed initially. I took the camera to be repaired. And
multiple times in
yes.
places as well.
Well, no, actually, it was just it was the one place, but and the result was that basically the problem was that the camera was functioning fine, but the saved footage was some of it was corrupted, and most of it was inaccessible, and trying to upload it onto a computer would result in failure. So while the camera itself did, die its final death as a result of that, I did manage to have a portion of the footage rescued in a slightly reduced quality, and this is that footage.
Yes. Did you have to refilm much?
We only had to refilm one sequence, which was phenomenal good luck.
Just to quickly point out here, I think that this scene
It's
was
apparently
very
sending
good
my
in... I'm sorry. Excuse me,
Scene
yawning.
sending you right off to the land of Nod.
This scene here, it was quite good in bringing Gunn back into it
As a
'cause-
threat, yes.
Yeah, and this episode does that quite nicely again later, because right now we've got the 3 amulets, but it would be safe to say, even if you have watched the special episode, we've kind of forgotten about Gunn a wee bit, even though we know he's there.
Yes.
He's not as prevalent as other villains are in certain series and stuff like that, but certainly when he does make his appearances, he does so in such a way that people go, yes, that's important.
Indeed. To reference quickly the prologue scene once again with Dusk's imaginary fight against Gunn, I'm also glad that we had that at our disposal, because this is quite a slow starting episode. The first 2 major scenes are both very talky, a lot of exposition and a lot of
And that is
characterization.
not Patrick in the top of the screen, and it wasn't Patrick's hand taking the mask from the minion. Sorry, there you go. Keep going.
No, of course it wasn't. Yes, so I was glad to have that fight scene there to introduce some early action, so that we could then go through the slower, more character dialogue-oriented scenes. This scene,
He's also not Patrick. Doing Michael's job for him. Mainly because it's
not
me.
Patrick.
Mainly
It's
because
not
it's me in
Patrick.
this one, I remember that.
It was you in the previous one as
Was it
well.
me in the previous one?
In the shot before this, yeah.
I remember those things.
Yeah, just as well that you guys had to sneak into the Guild of Henchmen.
With masks on.
Yes.
Because you had masks.
That was one of the things that first occurred to me. I thought, as long as when Patrick leaves I can get him to lend me his costume, because Patrick brought his own costume along, I can film some extra stuff with someone else playing his part, except from behind a mask.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, that actually worked out pretty well. Now, here we have what I've mistakenly in the past called a cameo. This is a recurring character. The appearance of a long missed character from Series 2, The Ninjas.
You're talking about the Dino Fist, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Wait a minute.
That seminal character who was sorely missed and thought dead. No, I am, of course, talking about the man who has his back to us.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Wanted poster with my face on it.
No, I'm talking, of course, about Andrew Dykes, who, there is Dino Fist, of course, voiced once again by Joe Buckley, and there is Andrew Dykes, playing Jin Hayako.
Jin was a character who was originally going to be the final villain of Season 2, coupled with, the new hero Halleck, who coincidentally enough both appear in this series. But I think they both ended up a wee bit better off than things could have been. Well, maybe not Halleck so much, but Jin gets his nice wee happiness, I suppose.
Yes.
Which is good to see him again.
The reason why I like the premise of this is because it shows that Jin is still around as a character, which is always nice to see a familiar face. It shows that he is still very much as he was as a character at the end of Season 2, i.e., essentially a good person, but that he's hampered by past misdeeds and is trying to make ends meet the best way he knows how.
By opening up a bar.
By opening up a bar in an area where his name is known among the villains.
Hey, barkeep, give me some of that magic juice.
that, like I said, that is Joe Buckley recording the voice of Dino Fist. This is also the final material that he recorded for the series.
Yes, and puppeteered by Sean?
Puppeteered by Sean, indeed.
Indeed. Poor
Yes.
Andrew found it very difficult to say his lines.
Yes,
They
were quite a double
in
act.
The blooper reel.
The dinosaur and Andrew. And that little bit of powder was some baking soda that we borrowed from Andrew's cupboard.
Oh, very nice. And he had all of that stuff
Now,
there.
if
even
I
for
could
the
leap in,
bar.
that is really Steve. Just in case you're starting
Yes.
to think that every time someone's behind a mask, it was because they hadn't turned up that day.
Yes.
Look, do you really want to do this right now?
This is just again
Oh,
another
also,
example
it was Patrick in the last scene as well, because you could quite clearly see.
Oh,
his
of
face.
course, yeah, we completely skipped over that. Yes,
Our makeup's not that great, unfortunately.
yes. The two genuine appearances of Patrick in a scene of this in this episode, if we count all of the barroom stuff as one scene, were all filmed on the one day.
Yes.
And here comes, I think, probably, if such a thing exists, probably our best mashup of sinister and comical villain.
Yes, because I remember hearing the idea for this. A leader, because as you know by now by watching the series, there are many faceless henchmen, with
Seemingly
masks and various
unconnected to one another.
Yes. However, this episode finally delves into that. This is sort of their episode in a way, if you will.
Yes. Also
Because-
Jaiku's episode, but he is learned that he has a
yes.
strong connection to them.
Speechless. I don't blame you. What are the
And we
words
finally
of
get to meet
words
this chap
such
here,
as
who
this?
I laughed at the idea of at first. Said, "That's ridiculous. It's going to be funny."
Sadly,
But
It wasn't. Like,
wow.
you were talking about him being comedic, and I'm sitting here thinking,
why not?
I don't really see him as comedic in any way.
Fair,
really.
fair enough.
Well,
but when
okay,
I
maybe
first heard
comedic
the
is the
idea
wrong.
for this-
He's certainly quite camp.
Oh yeah, certainly with Michael when the idea was first proposed. It's like he's throwing minions at people. I was like, this does sound pretty freaking hilarious. But then it was done in such a way that was certainly not hilarious. It was actually quite.
Why would I trade?
Yeah, my
True,
initial
yeah, it did
concept
turn
for
out
this
quite
revolved around Dominion making over-exaggerated arm movements as if he were fighting Jaiku, but really all he's doing is summoning minions who would be leaping in front of him in the style of a bodyguard taking a bullet, one after another.
Matter of time.
Yeah.
I've always felt
That didn't happen in the end,
No.
largely because we only had a limited number of people to work with, and a limited number of costumes.
and the fall.
But
Who am I?
the better for it, I reckon.
That wasn't telepathy.
If you couldn't tell, the voice is done by Peter.
I was
And
Yes.
put
Yes.
through many editing softwares and synthesized
wearing
things.
that.
Or just Audacity.
Or just Audacity.
Yeah, no, I tried to do as much of the voice just with my own voice as possible, and then
Has
just
it
deepen the
really
tone
been
with
so
Audacity.
long that you think you can reason with me?
Because someone I did Guardian,
I
a special
see
episode.
your
Exactly the same, to be honest, just an even deeper tone.
betrayed me.
Now, here's where we properly get a sense of Jaiku's character, and the fact that he is, for the first time, I think, a character, a character who is not noble. Even even at a push, really.
And this is Patrick.
Oh yes, that is not a latex Patrick mask.
This is kind of almost sad, given what ended up happening to Patrick. and
Yeah,
how much of it was written post the news that he was going to be leaving, but the fact that his character.
I always intended the Shark Den Den to be mentioned in this conversation, given that it is not only the two characters who fought Shark Den Den there, but it is the entire cast from the day that the Shark Den Den fight was filmed here.
Yes.
But as a character, the fact that he clearly doesn't dislike his brother.
Yeah,
Even though
he
it's not a
feels sorry for him, I imagine. And I, to be honest, that was the best hand I could play with the story that I had to go on with, because Patrick was going to depart. So all I could do, I couldn't resolve anything. I could only make it tragically ironic.
And this is how Seal was written out. He's poisoned by the
Yeah.
baking soda in the
Oh
drink
yep,
and
yep,
never
he's dead now.
reawakens.
He's gone. You'll never
That's
see him
it.
again.
Yep.
No, that's genuinely what I thought was going to be the end of Seal. I was like, is that it? But no.
No,
not
no.
It would have been a little bit anticlimactic for someone like Peter to be writing.
You know, I'll tell you something. It wouldn't be above me if you've seen Halleck's death in season 2.
Yes, I wasn't going to mention that earlier on, but since you brought it up...
Oh, God. Well, thank you, Andrew, and we'll never see you again.
No, he does appear very briefly in another scene.
Oh, of course, when Seal wakens up again.
Yes.
That's right. For the last time.
Yes.
I do remember watching this bit where Alzek chases after Dusk right out of the bar and with a friend, and she said, "Who does that?" You know, because Dusk sort of stops and looks back at the bar and waits for Alzek to come out and then runs off.
I think, granted, first of all, we have to comment on the anomaly that is in fact not Steve there.
Oh, yeah.
That's Sean in a mask,
I know you can't tell.
which we can come on to properly in a second, but since we were about to leave this place, we haven't even mentioned how spectacular a location this was.
We weren't even sure if we were allowed to film there.
We most likely weren't.
We basically had to crawl through like what looked like a fence that had been plied open.
Yeah.
Chain link fence that had been plied open to get into there. Like,
Yeah.
For a henchman's place, it was just spectacular.
Yeah, it was as dank and decrepit and you know, as we wanted it to be, and should really have been inaccessible, but fortunately there was a large enough hole in the fence. We tried. There's an organisation. The nearest thing we could do was get in touch with an organisation called Friends of Castorphin Hill, which is where this forest is. And I sent them an email. I asked them, would it be okay for us to film there, and if so, how would we go about gaining access to it? I got no reply.
In fact, while we were
you
there,
tried.
we even saw other people doing, not film work, some photography work.
Yeah, just generally having a good time and taking some pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did what any reasonable person would do. We forced our way in.
Well, you used Alzek's iron stance, and he parted the fence.
Exactly.
We just forced him against the fence.
Use me as a battering ram, guys.
Now here is Sean once again, standing in for Stephen Boyle, wearing the most spectacular wig we could have hoped for.
You know what? I'm going to be honest. I'm sorry, Steve, if you're listening to this, but I did not notice that this wasn't you.
Steve didn't notice it wasn't him.
Exactly.
And he was like,
I
remember filming this
The
scene.
first time Steve watched this episode back, when it came to the point of Leon walking out of the building
this
into
is
the
Steve.
courtyard.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. When it came to him walking out into the courtyard with the mask on, he did not know that was Sean in a wig and mask.
Because he laughed at that wig when you first showed it to him.
He did. But
So no one's going to fall for that.
as
And
long
he
as
did.
as long as you've got the headband on as well to strap it down, it looks remarkably convincing.
Wow.
Do you know me?
Ah, yes, and the return of Dusk proper.
Yes.
Dun-dun. You even got a dun-dun-dun noise
Yeah.
in the background as well. It's just
Yes, a sound effect that's courtesy of Final Fantasy Unlimited, the anime.
I didn't know if you were Alpha
Yeah.
or Gun. Whether to attack you or run from you. Neither worked out very well.
Now here we see quite a rare thing, the aftermath encounter of two former henchmen.
Yes.
given the episodes being so much about henchmen,
Yes.
as Jaiku is now expository for us.
You're. See, now here's my facepalm moment. I hadn't even thought of that before.
Seriously, yeah.
Yes.
I at least
It never occurred to me that both fights heavily theme themselves around henchmen. Oh dear. I was just thinking of them as two separate entities.
I suppose it's, when you're doing the filming, it very much feels like that.
Perhaps.
The minions of the land bow to me, for I am
Of course, I remember watching this with people who had seen the series, weren't involved in the creation process, and when Dominion is unmasking himself, because they've apparently been asking in their heads, who is this guy? Because he sounds like he knows them. Granted, he knows Jaiku.
Yeah.
But and they themselves are wondering, who's it going to be when he takes the mask off? And when this happened, like, oh, we're going to see who he is. And it's another mask underneath. Yeah, that's it.
Yes. Of course. Dominion's face is completely unimportant. All that you need to know is that he wears a chrome mask, because that is the symbol of his brotherhood.
Yeah. The leader of the masked brotherhood. So an idea that can I take credit for coming up with the name? Is that good?
Go right ahead, yeah, because it's a
Yeah.
spectacular name.
Yeah, because Because the Masked Brotherhood was initially an idea I came up with, mainly because the chrome silver hockey mask that Pete wears as Alzak in this episode, which he steals off red-handed, and the one that you most commonly see in these episodes, is the one that is mine. Well, actually no, Pete bought it, I think, originally during another film.
Yeah, I bought it during one of the very first filming projects that we did, and
it subsequently ended up getting used as the minion mask or the henchman mask for a lot of the henchmen. And as a result, anyone who wore that, I said in my head, okay, they're a member of a special clan of henchmen called the Masked Brotherhood.
Yes.
That's their connecting point. That explains why they're always wearing the same mask. And I was going to explore it in season 2, but I just never did, because we were already dealing with one criminal organization. There's no point in bringing them out.
exactly.
And then Peter went and took that idea and built it into this episode, which I really enjoyed.
Yes, Dominion is, frankly, he's the only original villain of this series that is sort of arc-worthy, you know?
Yes, most definitely.
If I had not already come up with the whole theme of the series around Gunn, I would quite happily have built this series around him.
Oh yeah.
It does feel like he deserves more.
Yes.
Well, I'm not saying like he doesn't, because he's got plenty going for him in this episode alone. It's fantastic. But
Interestingly enough, he's also the only arc villain, or potential arc-worthy villain of the series so far, who has never worked for Deadman.
that's also true.
Yes, that's true, because Gunn was a member of Dead, and here is the final appearance of Andrew Dice.
Yes, he's just disappeared, never to be seen in this episode again.
Which you would think you might have actually called on Jin to maybe go and help. He probably wouldn't have said. You probably wouldn't have agreed, but you know, one of the characters might have at least asked.
I would have liked to have seen Jin help out, particularly since he had light chakra.
Bird!
This
A
is
bird!
Well, we filmed in various kinds of weathers. We
Oh,
filmed
yes,
in
but
sunlight,
this, to be
darkness,
honest,
nighttime, snow. And
for what we had for today, this episode, this filming day, could not have worked out better, really.
oh yeah, I'm not saying that the
Because
wind's a bad thing.
we had phenomenal high winds throughout the entire of the fight scene filming. It made visually everything very atmospheric, very, it gave a lot of presence to the what was just a clearing in the forest. What would usually it gave us the opportunity to do that shot just there with the hat disappearing as it blew off the screen, because that was genuine wind blowing that away. We didn't.
That was not a string.
No strings attached, exactly. And most importantly, it didn't muck up a single line of dialogue, because there was only one line of spoken dialogue in the entire scene. The rest was done entirely using dubbing, partly because the two characters are masked, but mainly because the entire dialogue between them is telepathic.
Yes, and that is not a cop-out, that was
always
originally
intended, yeah.
to be.
We couldn't believe our luck that we only
Yeah,
had to
because
scrub out a
normally this
couple
would-
of actual spoken lines to account for
This
the
would
wind of this
completely
scene.
destroy an episode, normally.
Yes.
So, yeah, there's some good luck for you.
Exactly, yes. To offset by the massive bad luck that we had in other parts.
Oh yes, I'm not complaining about the wind at all. It was
No.
It was just as enjoyable filming.
But it was certainly remarkable.
Yes. Thankfully, like I said, only one line of dialogue, because even that took a few attempts to get correct.
There were a couple of other spoken lines later on that we turned into telepathic lines, just because we knew that anything more than one or two would just take too long.
I love reading some of these little minion things, like assaults
they're
them with smooth jazz, or attacks his opponents in perfect rhythm. It's just actually imagining these sorts of things is brilliant. Plus, I got to
Yeah, I
play
think
a lot
it's-
of minions in this episode, which
Oh,
was
yes, you
great
did,
fun.
Yes.
I think it's worth mentioning here. Sorry, go ahead,
No,
Sean.
I was just saying, I'd fall over a lot.
Something that's worth mentioning, since this is the episode that properly introduces the psychic style of fighting,
Yes.
that is good, because not only does Dominion get to play this very significantly powerful villain, and a very nice original villain, as Peter's already mentioned, it also properly introduces the psychic style of fighting, with both Jaiku and Dominion using techniques on it. Star Trek reference.
Yes.
Apologies. Anyway.
Yes.
Because that plays, the psychic style of fighting plays a big part in the next episode as well, and in the series plot.
It takes out a good chunk of explanation that might be required. For example, through the events of this episode, you get used to the fact that any time a single ripple is used as an attack effect on screen, that is a psychic attack.
It's always good to try and explain something visually rather than by having someone tell them.
Oh yes.
Wherever possible. Show don't
Something
tell,
we need
that's
to learn how
the
to do.
filming rule.
Exactly.
What? Sorry, but I got everything I needed from you before I ran away.
I always imagined this sequence, or the henchman part of this sequence, retooled as basically a Pokemon battle.
It is a bit.
Yeah.
Except the poor Joker doesn't have any.
Yes, this is true. He's a wild Pokemon.
There's a few scenes you can tell what colour shirt the camera person is wearing because of the colour that's reflected in Dominion.
Oh
Yes.
yes, Dominion's reflective mask.
You can
Not
tell
as
when I
bad
was
as
dressed up-
Alzek's glasses.
Oh yeah, but when I was
because
dressed
the
up as
image
red
is so
shirt,
much more distorted in the mask than it is in the glasses.
especially the red shirt when you get close-ups when I was in the red shirt costume.
Yes.
And I didn't notice it at the time, which is entirely my fault, but...
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I thought this was really good here with the psychic marks.
Yes,
You know, he's
this
not sure
this is an
who's who.
illustration of a part that we relied entirely on show don't tell for presenting it. We explain what the mark is, but we only ever imply that that is what the mark looks like to Dominion. So hopefully that comes across.
And here comes Patrick's last proper sequence.
That there was the last time he uses the Destiny Triad symbol in its, as you previously said, Michael, its new application.
Is that why it's red?
That is why it's red.
Just
Okay.
think. You might be right. Or killing me might set him free
Here's
again.
Alzek
I'll take my chances.
doing his.
Oh, the
usual-
zip line.
That was
What are
good.
you doing?
Like, I still
Yeah.
can't work out how you did
Yes!
that.
That was it looked brilliant when we'd finished it. When you actually see what we did, you can't help but think, wow, that can look even mildly convincing.
What did you actually do? Like, I can't work it out.
Okay, so the point where the string fires from his sleeve, that is the string attached to a longer piece of thread being pulled out at rather a steady rate, and I just sped that bit up.
Okay.
Yep. The bit when it in the second shot where it attaches to Alzek's glasses, that is, we wrap the string around the glasses. I made sure to have them on properly, and Drew pulled the string to make it unwrap and whip off, and then I reversed it so that it seems to grab the glasses, and then the pulling of them off, we just tied a proper knot and then yanked them off. The part that really needs cues to go to Andrew on this is the final bit where the glasses spring back into his hand. He ran the string down his sleeve and out the back of his jumper and pulled them towards himself and caught them.
Really?
Yes, that bit is the one bit that was not manipulated in the slightest.
Wow, that is very good.
Now, this is our big scene for Seal. Not as long as I would have liked it to be, not with as much build-up as I would have liked to have given it, but Patrick was very good and agreed to stay on beyond the end of the scene that we planned for his final filming, for what turned out to be his final filming day, in order to film this one sequence between him and Dominion where Seal, a character who I did not have a lot of time to write out, gives us I think the noblest end he could possibly have done.
Jaiku, it's up to you now.
And it also builds up just how deadly and dangerous Dominion
Exactly,
is. To be able to,
again,
to dispatch
arc
someone
villain
as
worthy.
powerful as Seal.
It makes it a shame that he doesn't last beyond this fight scene. Or does he?
Or does he? Sorry, focus on Seal.
Yes,
Focus on Seal.
focus on Seal. Yeah.
You don't even see a body either.
That's
That is
that's
a
a
callback
reference.
to-
That is a reference to the death of Shark Denden. Because when Shark died, he was engulfed in light, and there was no body, only his one iconic piece of clothing, his skull and crossbones belt, fell to the ground. But Seal, we have the exact same
Yes.
thing. So he departed as his brother did.
Because they're both light tracker users, so...
Yes.
Although just in entirely different ways.
Yes.
Oh yes, I think he's the only one who uses it for evil.
Jin. But to be fair, that
Jin did not use his light chakra for evil, because if you remember correctly, when he's
he
being
used
proper
everyone
bad,
else's chakra. Yeah.
he does not use his light techniques. Maybe
Besides
he believes
which,
that he
besides which,
mustn't
Seal
use them.
doesn't know Jin until this episode.
That's true.
Now, retake
I think he was referencing his family, though. I'm sure there are light chakra users who are evil.
foolish Jaiku fleet.
Just like there's probably dark chakra users who are good.
Exactly. And we're about to
Like-
see one.
I'd say
Come the end of this series.
Good.
use it.
Not perhaps not
Good.
properly noble, but
Yes.
when it all comes
Not
down
evil.
to it,
Disguises that are as bad as yours. They won't get
and if not Jaiku, then
There is
Dusk.
another way.
Dusk is
Yes.
one of my favourite characters overall.
Well, now
June's
the
portrayal of him as well just
Sure.
is phenomenal. But
To be honest, now that I think about it, I'm really glad that Dusk stayed on as long as he did, because he fills an essential role that I sort of lost and intended for Jaiku, because I intended that Jaiku's character should be instrumental in the final defeat of Gun, but that he should never quite redeem himself to the level of hero. Dusk fills that role actually better than Jaiku does,
oh, very much
Yeah,
so.
he does.
because he is instrumental in the final finish, but he is also just as scared for his life, just as unwilling to commit to being a true hero, and if nothing else, his departure at the end reflects his unwillingness to be
even be
to
there.
be integrated into
Yeah.
the self-styled heroes of the story.
He
I
feels
I
like
also
someone who
I
just-
do like how at the end of the series, sorry to spoil this everyone, but you should have watched the series by now. How Alzek goes out of his way to ask the king to annul Jaiku's bounty as thank you for helping,
But not Dusk's.
but not Dusk's.
Now, if you hadn't understood the psychic mark thing at that point, then that little fog sequence would have made no sense to you whatsoever.
Oh yeah.
Most minions we have on screen at any one point,
I do.
and
like
the
this
one
though.
instance of a major villain being taken down by being stabbed in the back.
It's great as well, and that's the first time that you have Jaiku actually taking his mask off. He doesn't
Yes.
actually take
Yeah.
his mask off because he's not actually wearing it at this point.
Yeah,
And it's a really iconic moment for it to happen as well.
yes, and it's taken off for him to do this, do this vengeful, quite awesome, yet a little bit unnerving thing, because no ninja in the series has ever ended a battle like that. They've never.
Yeah, because normally it's a blast of energy or a disintegration or just a plain defeat. A clean defeat.
Exactly.
No trickery involved.
There-
This,
yeah.
and for such a powerful villain
Yes.
as Dominion, okay, true enough, he's just a regular guy though. He got stabbed in a vital part of the body, I'm guessing.
Yes. We have to assume.
Probably the kidneys or something.
You can survive with only one kidney.
Oh,
Hence-
he had two kuna. He just did both kidneys.
Oh, I see.
Very
No,
precise
but
about
very
it.
nicely done.
But yeah, as much as there has been trickery used throughout battle sequences in all stages of the series, it's never been used for the final finish before to such a great degree.
Yeah. And here's quite a nice wee thing of Alzek's reactor blast getting a bit more screen time, because it doesn't get enough.
Yes, and it getting a slightly more varied use than simply blast now.
Yeah.
Enemy dead,
Yeah.
go home. Have
Yes.
fun.
Yeah.
I know what you fear. I was there too, remember? I moved on. And I'm not going back there.
Yeah, it really shows Dusk's reluctance to actually. He seems like a character that wants to just go and have a normal life somewhere. What's happened. He wants to just get over it, go somewhere, have a normal life, and not keep being dragged, kicking and screaming back into these.
Exactly.
And he thinks he's going to get that right now. But no.
But no.
Dominion. Short-lived. I
Yes.
guess we'll never see you
Shame
again.
that
Ever.
there'll never be any further reference to him. Oh well.
Not at all,
I mean,
completely.
it's all wrapped up in a nice little bow. There's going to be
Yeah.
no.
Absolutely.
Never.
I
I
mean,
mean, after all, the spin-off is the final
why,
thing
after
of the ninjas
ending
we're ever gonna
an
see.
albeit short-lived villain's story on, with quite a good arc, would we do something like this?
which I had which I had a few gripes with,
Yeah.
because of the nature of Seal's Destiny Triad that he puts on the battle arena. But we've discussed this a few times already.
Yeah, I don't think we need to go back into plot inconsistency. Suffice to say, if it worries you that the nature of Seal's explanation for his Destiny Triad means that Dominion shouldn't technically have been alive, we have an explanation. Ask us if you want to know.
Write us on the
What is
postcard.
it? Wait, what is it? I don't know.
The different definition of like defeat and survival in that sort of way.
Yes. He literally...
Okay, his life force was weak enough that the seal couldn't
Correct.
register.
His life
There we
force
go.
was weak enough that, to all intents and purposes, the seal considered him defeated.
Yes. Okay. Gotcha.
He was not getting back up under his own steam, put it that way.
I'm surprised, given all the rope that's been used during the series in various
Yeah.
instances, you didn't even think to tie him up with a rope at all.
Well, but we did, and there's a special reason why he was incapacitated using his own hoodie, because Andrew Suter forgot the hoodie that was part of his dust costume for that day, the one that has the symbol on the back and on one of the shoulders, on one of the sides of the torso, beg your pardon. Fortunately, I had a replacement hoodie, a plain black one, but in order that we should not show the parts of it that have the absent symbol on
You had
them,
to hide it.
we had to hide it, and exactly, so we tied it up behind his back so that it would be all scrunched up and nobody would be even looking for the symbol.
There's always a reason for everything that happens in this series.
Well,
Correct.
most of the time, yeah.
It's
Here
also,
comes Gunn again as well.
he will in a second.
Yes, of
also,
course, yeah,
also
no.
worth mentioning that this is another one of the scenes done using recovered footage from our now broken camera.
It's less obvious than the other one, I think.
Yeah, because of the
Yes.
light.
The main reason it's obvious in this one is because when the scene transition happens, we're then into our brand new shiny high quality camera footage,
Ooh.
It's him.
which you'll see in just a moment.
I love how Gunn basically has a theme.
I wonder
Every time he's
Yep.
appearing, this music starts. The
Yeah.
huge
Oh!
remix.
Yes, I know, Michael, you're not particularly keen on this as Gunn's theme.
Oh, yeah.
But I might, it's your
Oh,
fault.
sorry. I do love this bit, though.
Yes, this right here.
Ah! I do love that, mainly because it's the first time you see Gunn again properly visually.
Since episode
This was
1.
actually done in one of my return trips to the UK during
Yes.
one of my summer breaks. So
And
I
this,
was able to
and this little
visually...
voice recording here was done simply. I simply spoke the lines with venom in my voice on the day, and later had Michael match up his dubbed over clips to the footage, and I think it worked fantastically well.
Oh, it does. It works really well.
I think it's there's something really unsettling about
voices,
Michael's
two
voice
voices.
coming out
Is there something
about
unsettling
Gunn's
about
voice
Michael's
coming out
voice?
Yeah, right, about Gunn's voice coming out of Alzek's body.
Here we go.
And here we are in not quite this shot, but there we go, brand new shiny footage from this camera.
If you're not watching in HD, switch it to HD now.
Yes.
You won't regret it.
Thank you.
Interactive viewers can now press the red button to choose your camera angle.
Wait, do you mean the red which of the red buttons on Alzek's shoulders?
Press your red Alzek button now.
All right.
Good. Well, that didn't take long.
Oh, that was easy. But yes, this is a nice coming together of what would be, I suppose, the final four.
Yes, the final four, insofar as there is a final four at the end.
It almost feels like I know it wasn't intentional, and things happened, resulting in Patrick having to leave and Drew coming in as part of the final four. But it feels like a little bait and switch.
Right.
Like you get the final four, and you see multiple shots of the four standing in a line or doing things like that, and you think, yeah, that's and literally the next episode. It's like, oh no. Nope, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Wasn't quite. And it almost feels like it was kind of an intentional draw them in and then be like,
Yeah.
haha, it's the other way round.
To be honest, I like to think at any rate that it strengthened the episodes from certain perspective. I know it didn't have as much footage of Patrick as we like, but now we have disarray, misdirection, and for an episode that started with them already unsure about what to do next,
Yes.
we now have them. They have their final solution, but things have been so thoroughly destabilized for them that there's certain trepidation about how triumphant the start of the next episode can be.
And it's worth saying here, I've just noticed really, granted Drew has his hoodie off just now, his dark hoodie, but all of the characters are now very similar color schemed. We've got, aside from Alzak's red, we've got a lot of blacks and blues now.
This is true.
Seal was the brightly colored one.
He was,
not just
yeah.
because of his costume, but his hair.
Yes, Patrick pointed that out himself, actually, after he'd watched this or possibly another one of the episodes. He said that we had virtually identically costumed characters at this point.
I think that you're all different enough to differentiate, luckily.
Fortunately, we had the good sense to have different faces.
Yes.
It usually helps in acting.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, we trivia bit for you. I'm the one behind the camera.
And that little bottle around Jaiku's neck has only just been touched on, and the full explanation will be given during the next episode.
It's on the early episodes as well, where it actually says to be continued at the end of it as well.
Yes, even
Because
though...
it really did feel like it ended on a cliffhanger rather than the other episodes.
It's true, and even though the next episode does have a divided off story, I felt that this is the truest continuation of one episode into another. An argument could be made for episode 1 into 2, but this one,
Yeah.
I felt the events of the previous episode shape the events of the coming one the best.
That's an awesome pose right there. Even though it's just the silhouettes.
Yeah. A tip
I
for
didn't
you,
even
that
remember doing
picture there of Andrew Dykes is not Andrew Dykes, that's me.
I was going to say, yeah, that's a bit of a generic. That looks like Godzilla.
I didn't have a green screen silhouette of myself. So I did a picture of myself on the green screen holding up the bottle to make it look like it was Andrew Dykes. Then when I got the green screen shots, I remembered, of course, that you can see the green through the bottle, so you can't green screen the bottle. So I should have got like a plastic flask or something clear, something opaque to hold up. But by that point, I was just in a rush to get the episode done. So I just lowered the picture in the screen so that, to be honest, the only part of that that's supposed to reference Andrew now is the fact that his bottom half's cut off, like he's standing from behind the bar.
Behind the bar.
That's as good as I could get in the time.
Yeah, I just assumed it was a bad photo, to be perfectly honest, and thought I don't want to drag Andrew out to take one photo of him. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it is, sure.
And there's the credit for puppetry by Sean Robertson.
You're never going to see that in this sort of production, are you?
No, we've worked with animals, we've worked with puppets.
We're pretty prolific as things go.
Yeah.
Which I'm quite happy about.
As you're about to see, we've worked with islands.
Yeah. Look forward to the final episode of the Ninja spin-off, created by this genius that we're now talking to. Me? No, I'm kidding. Peter. And Protus. See you then.
See you for episode 5. Thank you very much for listening.